This is the Canopy Standard Wiring Kit. It will give you a pretty basic and very robust system that is quite easy to install yourself. And included in the features are absolutely everything that you need for a standard kit. To begin with, just be aware that with this kit you should also, if you haven't got a battery yet, choose a single or a twin battery kit. You can choose the right cable sizes, and in the battery kit you will get the connection cables to connect the batteries to this kit. It will also have a twin A&L fuse holder in there. Fuses for it are part of this kit. The fuse holder itself is part of the battery kit. Just in case you purchase this without one of our battery kits, make sure you also order a twin A&L fuse holder, so you got somewhere to put your A&L fuses that are part of this kit. To begin with, what's included here, we just start from this side. We've got a 120 watt red arc solar panel, monocrystalline. Then we've got mounting rails for that panel to put it on top of your canopy or any flat surface that you want to mount this on. You can even use them to mount that on top of your roof rack. We've also got an M16 gland in here, so if you want to go with the cables through the roof, what you can do is you drill a 16mm hole, you put this through, you screw this back on from the inside, and then you got a rubber seal and the cable goes through the middle. This is hollow, as you can see. When the cable has been put through, you can put it together. There's a rubber ring that squeezes together and it makes it watertight. So this is a very easy way to get the cable from the top of your canopy to the inside of your canopy. Then we've got the red arc BCDC 1240D battery charger. This will take care of charging from your start battery to your secondary battery, and it will also have the solar panel connected to it, also charging the secondary battery. You also get a 1200 watt pure sine wave inverter from Victron as part of this kit. That connects to the A&L fuse holder. You also get a Victron BMV 712 battery monitor that's got Bluetooth capability, so you get a monitor where you can see all the information about the voltage of your lithium battery. You can see the voltage of your start battery under the bonnet. You can see the state of charge in percent of your lithium battery or your house battery, whatever battery you choose. You will also see the amount of amp hours you've taken out of that battery. You can see the amps going in and out. You can see the power in watts going in and out of your battery. Whole lot of information that you can see on here. And you can get even more information if you connect to it through your smartphone. There's an app you can download called Victron Connect. It doesn't cost anything. And then you can connect with your smartphone to this unit. And even while you're driving along in the cab, while this is installed in the canopy, you can still see how your battery charges, percentage of the battery, and so on. Also, as part of this, you get the EGON DC Hub and, of course, the EGON DC Hub bracket with everything you need to put the components together. This will actually make it very easy for you to install everything. All the parts, except for the inverter, will connect directly to the DC hub, and there's not a lot you need to know. I'll show you a little bit later what connects where and what the cables are for. So that's part of this kit as well. Then you get 2 of these power socket outlets. You have an Anderson plug in there. You have got a normal accessory socket in there, and you've got a twin USB output in there. So you will have 2 of these in your kit. Install them left-hand side, right-hand side in the canopy, or both on one side, and you can connect all the little accessories that you've got floating around there that you want to connect. We'll also have 2 National Lunar orange and white lights. These are our absolute go-to lights. They work brilliantly if you put them on your canopy doors. Just mount them underneath where that strengthening bit is being welded onto the door. You can flush mount them, cable goes behind. You can surface mount these, but the cable goes through the back of the light, so you won't see anything. It's got a touch switch on there. You just cover it with your whole finger and it turns on the lowest white setting, medium white setting, brightest white setting, then turns back off. And if you turn it back on and you keep your finger pressed on it for more than 3 seconds, changes to orange. And then you got orange, lowest setting, medium setting, brightest setting, and back off. Very good lights, and you get one for each side of your canopy. That will give you plenty of camping light as well. Those lights are bright enough to illuminate an area up to 10 meters, even 15 meters around your car on white, and almost the same on orange. And it makes for a very nice campsite because the orange is the same light temperature as your bonfire. Also, we have got 2 fuse kits with these. Maxi blade fuses for the DC hub, and then standard blade fuses and micro blade fuses and mini blade fuses as well. So this should have you covered. Even for spare fuses for your trip, there's plenty in there. We've got another fuse holder here. That is the waterproof maxi fuse holder for under the bonnet. That is for the power supply from your start battery to the DC hub later on. Then as part of it, you've got all the crimps that you need to connect everything together. You have got heat shrink for all these crimps. Also part of this kit is plenty of cable, everything you need to connect all the bits and pieces together. You also get sleeving with it, solid sleeving and heat shrink, so you can make up all the cables for it as well. There should be plenty of it, so just in case you do run out, you can order more. Good thing is the heat shrink that we use is also the good heat shrink. It's dual wall and it's got a resin lining in there. It's the same as hot glue, so once you shrink it together, the glue gets hot and it glues itself onto the cable, onto the lug, and makes a proper waterproof, dustproof insulation around the bits that would otherwise be exposed. Okay, so I'll now show you how all of this connects together. This is a little how-to, so you know how to install this thing into your canopy. I've prepared this before. So this is the DC hub already mounted in its bracket. If you want to know more about the DC hub and how things connect to the DC hub, please go to the website egon.com.au. That's egon.com.au. It's in the description as well. And you can see how the DC hub gets mounted into its housing, how a BCDC charger gets connected to it. There's plenty more information about right there. I'll put this aside. So we'll have the DC hub here. That will be the heart of our installation. I'll also grab a battery and the A&L fuse holder. So obviously the battery and the A&L fuse holder are not part of this package. You have to choose it individually, so you can pick and choose what battery kit you want to get with it. The way this will work is, make a little bit more room here. From your battery positive, you will use a cable that's supplied with the battery kit to go to the A&L fuse holder. And then you've got 2 outputs on the A&L fuse holder. You use a 150 amp fuse, 150 amp fuse each. You'll have 4 of these fuses in the kit. From here, you will run 3 BNS cable to the positive side of your DC hub, and on the other side to the positive side of your inverter. That is your primary power distribution from battery positive, done. So you use the cable that comes with the battery kit to supply the A&L fuse holder, and then red 3 BNS cable, 1 to the inverter, the other one to the DC hub, and 150 amp fuses into the A&L fuse holder. On battery negative, you use the shunt first. Let me unpack that. On the shunt, one side says battery only, the other side says load and charger. You take the cable that is part of your battery connection kit and run it from battery negative to battery only on the shunt. From the other side of the shunt, you run a 3BNS cable to the DC hub battery negative and a 3BNS cable to the inverter negative. Once you've got that step done, you've got now your inverter connected, you've got your DC hub connected, you've got it fused, and you've got the primary power for the shunt connected. I'll show you a bit later how the rest of the shunt connects. We'll get to the charger bit first. Let me unbox the BCDC charger from Red Arc. If you want to get a little bit more information about how to connect a Red Arc BCDC charger to your DC hub, please visit egon.com.au. There's a more in-depth explanation about how to connect DC-DC chargers to the EGON DC hub. What you do here is this comes with all these cables on it. Please have a look into the manual. It will tell you how you have to connect the green and the orange cable to select the right battery chemistry. Depending on what you want to do, you leave them open or you solder them together. There's a part in that manual where it explains that. Now, if you've got a car that has got a smart alternator and you need an ignition trigger, you will need to run an ignition feed from the vehicle to this blue cable so that when the ignition turns on, the DC-DC charger turns on. If you haven't got a smart alternator, if you got a constant voltage alternator or a temperature compensating alternator like all the Toyotas have, then you do not need to connect that. You just put some heat shrink on it or some tape, make sure it doesn't touch anywhere, and you just leave it away. That leaves us with the 4 thick cables. The way you need to connect them is that the brown cable, the power output, goes to connector P5, auxiliary battery positive. All you need to do is push it in there, tighten the screw, and it is connected. Then you take the black cable and you connect it to auxiliary battery negative on the same connector, P5. Tighten it. There's tightening torques for these connectors. Please have a look at the manual for the EGON DC Hub so you can tighten this right. Then on the connector underneath it, P6, there's one part that says charger input. The red cable goes in there. Oh, it's all coming apart now. And then the yellow cable goes into the same connector, P6, to solar input. And that's it. Your DC-DC charger is now connected in the exact right way. Just in case you have to extend these cables, you can solder cable onto it, or there's also some crimps that are part of the BCDC package. There's some crimps here and also heat shrink just in case you have to extend these cables. I recommend soldering, but if you don't trust yourself with soldering, that is a lot better than a solder joint that isn't done right. With that connected, you now need to connect your solar panel. So what you do is you take the 2 cables from the solar panel. You'll have to extend them. So we have got cable for that in the kit. 4mm twin core cable, solder that onto the solar panel, cut the plugs that are on the solar panel off, connect it to the 4mm twin core cable, heat shrink it, then run it through the gland, inside the canopy, to the DC hub, and on the DC hub there's connector P7. And you put your solar panel right in there. As soon as you've done that, the solar panel is now connected to the DC-DC charger through the MPPT regulator that is in there. And as soon as that gets done, it will start charging through this device, through the DC hub, through the shunt and the main fuse into your auxiliary battery. That is the solar setup. To connect the start battery so that you actually charge while you're driving, you will use the 6BNS twin core cable that's been supplied with this kit, and you solder this fuse holder onto it on the start battery. Make sure this fuse holder is within 30 centimeters of your start battery positive. You can crimp a lug on there. There's all different lugs here that you can use for it. Crimp a lug on there, heat shrink it, put it onto start battery. The black cable from the 6BNS twin core goes to your start battery negative, and from there the twin core runs all the way back into your canopy, into this connector on the bottom here, P8, where it says start battery. Run the 6BNS cable positive and negative directly in there, screw the terminals tight. Then you can put a fuse into F13. That will be a 60 amp maxi blade fuse for the 40 amp DC-DC charger. And that's it. Your whole charging system is now connected. As soon as you start your engine, and let's say you've got a temperature compensating or a constant voltage alternator, this unit will sense that the voltage of the start battery rises. It will turn on and it will start charging. From the start battery, the power will go into the DC hub through the red cable into the DC-DC charger. Ground is connected as well, because as soon as you connect the ground from the start battery to the DC hub, all the grounds are linked on the circuit board. So you don't have to put anything else together here. That unit will turn on. It will charge through fuse F13, through the DC hub, through the fuses, and through the shunt into your house battery. And as soon as you turn the engine off, the DC-DC charger from Red Arc will realize the voltage is dropping too low, I have to turn off now. And it will stop. So this will automatically act as a battery isolator for your house battery as well. In case you've got a smart alternator, like I said before, you connect the blue cable to an ignition trigger. That means as soon as you turn your ignition on, this cable will get a 12 volt signal, and within 60 seconds, the DC-DC charger will turn on. You just have to be careful when you do it that way. Don't leave your ignition on for a few minutes or even longer, because no matter if your engine is running or not, this thing will start charging 40 amps from your start battery into your auxiliary battery. So if you hook up the ignition trigger, make sure if you want to leave the ignition on for a longer period of time, turn the engine on as well, have it running so you actually get some charge from the alternator. Otherwise, this might deplete your start battery. With that said, we've got the charge system set up. The only thing that we need now is we want to connect your battery monitor so that you actually know where your battery levels are at. So this is the battery monitor. I recommend installing that into your canopy. Put it in the spot where you spend most of the time when you're camping in the canopy, so that you can always easily read where your batteries are at. The way you do that is there's a data cable here, and you will find there's a connector on your shunt that fits that data cable, and there's a connector on the back of the battery monitor that connects to that as well. As soon as you plug them together, that is all the connection that the monitor needs. The only other thing we need to do now is give the shunt some power. There's another 2 cables in here. These are quite important. As you can see on your shunt, I'll show you more directly. You've got 2 connectors there, and they fit these bootlace crimps that are on there. So what you do is you put the bootlace crimps in there. There's a fuse in here, 125 milliamp fuse. Make sure you don't blow that fuse. If you do, go to an electronics store, you'll find replacement fuses, because they are glass fuses and you can't get them in your normal automotive shop somewhere. Have a look into the manual. This is called B1 and B2 connection. B1 connection goes to your lithium battery. So you've got the option now. You can either plug that into B1 and go directly to your battery terminal on your house battery, or you can also cut this off and run it to one of the fuse outputs on your DC hub, because that will have the same voltage. Or you can also run it to the one port on the twin ANL fuse holder that is not taken. You'll find there's a battery positive coming in here as a supply. There's two going out, and because there's a bus bar in here that connects both fuses together, one of the ports will be empty. So you can also use that to screw that in and then plug it into B1. That will power the shunt, and that will then also power the battery monitor. And with that, you also get the voltage reading for this battery. You can leave it like that, everything will work, but if you also want to monitor the voltage of your start battery, you take the second cable, you put that into B2, and from there you can cut the eyelet off and run the cable into your start battery positive input, or into your charger input where the red cable goes in, because that is a direct connection to your start battery. Start battery positive will come through the fuse holder, through the red cable of the 6 BNS going to the front, into this positive connection here, and it will come back out here to go directly to the DC-DC charger. So you can use start battery positive or charger input where the red cable of the DC-DC charger goes, and put that cable in there as well. That way you will also monitor the voltage of your start battery. Please take into account when you connect it here, not directly at the battery. As soon as this charger is actually pulling current through the cable, the voltage that you read from your start battery will be lower than the voltage at the battery, because we will have a certain voltage drop on that cable. But while you're driving, I wouldn't be too concerned about the voltage of your start battery. You usually got something in your cap anyway that will show you the start battery voltage. This is more for when you're stationary, because when you're stationary, this thing doesn't charge because the engine doesn't run. And then you've got a big 6 BNS cable directly connected to battery positive of your start battery, and it will give you a very accurate reading of the voltage of your start battery. After that, you have to configure this. So download the Victron Connect app, connect to the battery monitor. You will see it coming up. Make sure you turn Bluetooth on. If you're a bit unsure how that works, Victron's got really good videos about how to do this. And then you'll have to change. First of all, it will do a software update. It always does that. And then when you want to go into the settings, it will do another software update. Then you can change the settings in the battery monitor through the app. Please have a look online. Victron recommends settings for lithium batteries or AGM batteries. They're quite easy to find. We're not going to make them part of this kit because they are being updated quite frequently as well. If you need more help with that, you can also call the shop or send us an email, and we can send you the latest version of what Victron recommends to put in there out to you. All right, we've got that covered. The last things we need to connect now is obviously your power sockets. So you can use the power, because at the moment, the only things we've got connected is charging and the inverter. Obviously, 240 you can plug directly into the inverter. There's a switch on the back to turn it on and off. You can also switch the inverter on and off remotely. Have a look into the manual. To connect the power outlets, what you can do is there's two high current outputs here on the DC hub. You can use them for the Anderson plug that is part of this. You will have two of these available, so you can use one output here per Anderson plug. You can even put an 80 amp fuse in, so you can have an 80 amp power supply for this Anderson plug if you want to. Don't worry about it. They are called 50 amp Anderson plugs, but you can actually put up to 100 amps through them. If you want to have a look at the data sheet for SB50 Anderson plugs, it will say that they're safe to connect and disconnect under load up to 50 amps, but you can actually put more current through these. The 12-volt socket you can put to one of the 10-25 amp outlets. What you do is you're going to run formal twin core cable to your accessory socket here, put a 10 amp fuse in, and then you can use cable to loop to the USB connector here. And with that, you've got that powered up. By the way, if you want to use the full extent of the Anderson plug, run 6 BNS cable for it. If you use more than 50 amps, if you only want to use it up to 50 amps, 8 BNS cable is enough. Cable is part of this kit. The last thing that's left to do then is connect your lights. For these lights you only need small cable, 3mm twin core cable is enough. Just solder it onto the light. There are some fly leads on there. Just solder it on there, extend the cable. Cable goes directly to the DC hub load outputs, one of the 10-25 amp outputs. For these lights you only need a 3 amp fuse. You can even put them both together. Use a 5 amp fuse for that, it's plenty. When they are set on full brightness, they use less than 1 amp. And with that, you've got all your connections together. Another trick that you can do to mount your solar panels, these are really cool profiles for mounting solar panels. I'll show you a bit more directly what they look like. This is the profile of these things. The way it works is that you put your solar panel right on there. So it sits like that. Then you can bolt through the side or pop rivet to hold your solar panel onto this aluminum profile. If you want to, you can also put some Sikaflex or whatever other glue or sealant you want to use, just to make it a little bit more weatherproof and vibration resistant. And then you can drill holes into this side here to mount it onto your canopy, roof rack, roof, whatever you want to do. And it's got these ripples in there as well. So before you put it onto a surface, just make sure you put some sealant or some glue like Sikaflex. I highly recommend Sikaflex 221. Put that on there, then put it onto your roof, put your bolts through, and make sure that you put Sikaflex underneath the bolt as well. And if you really want to overkill it, put a little dome of Sikaflex over the top as well, just to keep the water out. And this is it. This should give you all the information that you need about how to connect this kit. If you got any more questions, feel free to give us a call, shoot us an email. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions. There's a bit more heat shrink as part of the kit, as you can see here as well. There'll be 2 of each of them. Any other information, please have a look and read through the list of products that you find in the description for this kit. And I think that is all. Thank you very much.